welcome back to Shantae's Way. I know y'all are wondering where I've been at because I kind of abruptly stopped it. But if you're not following me on YouTube or subscribed to my YouTube channel, then you should be. I don't know what you're doing, but long story short, I made an impromptu decision in December to take a travel assignment. So for the last 3 months, I've been living in Miami, Florida, and y'all, it was not a one-way street, y'all. It was pretty rocky. So subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can follow that journey. Y'all know I normally do a small black business shout out, but today I'm just going to shout out this website that I think you all should check out. It directly pertains to today's episode, and the website is Therapy for Black Girls. You guys, if anybody out there is struggling or you feel like you just need a little extra help and you are looking for a black therapist, please visit this website, y'all. It's a great resource. You could see the different therapists in your area, and they tell you if they take insurance or not, if they have like a sliding scale, anything like that. All of that information is there, so definitely make sure if you're looking for a black therapist in your area, you check out the website. So y'all, I'm gonna introduce my guest for today. Her name is Vanay Butler, and she is a therapist and a certified life coach, y'all. So 2 claps for her, y'all. We have been planning this episode for so long, with me leaving for Miami and then scheduling conflicts because she is a working woman, y'all, and she also has a husband and kids. She has a whole family over there. So but I really thank you so much for taking the time out to come and do this, because I definitely want to educate the people in our community. So my first question is, what made you become a therapist?
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, thank you for inviting me on this show. I feel so honored to be here. I guess what led me into counseling was at the age of 19. I became a single mother, a teen mother, and I was going through my own stuff, right? I was up at school, and it seemed at that time a state of loneliness, a state of depression, and I could not just get my groove on things that I was normally able to do. Like, I could not find my footing at all. And so I started to look for like support groups, like mother support groups, or what is it out here, so I could just talk to somebody, so I could just have a safe space to just vent about what I'm going through. Fortunately, they did have a free counseling clinic on campus. And I was allowed, I believe, 8 to 10 sessions.
Wow.
Yeah, for free. And so this really helped me, and it also built my interest. I've always had a heart and a passion for like helping others, but I never thought about it like mentally. But once I noticed how much my mental health impacts everything else that I do, I was like, okay, I need to find out more information about this. So my major was already human services at the time, working with people, working in the social services field, and my passion just grew from there. Like, I became very interested on why people behave the way they do, what's the thought process behind everything, and like, maybe I can help someone else that felt in a similar situation as I did, feeling stuck, feeling like no one understands me, feeling lonely, feeling sad, and what do I do with these emotions? And is something going on with me, you know? Yeah. And so that's how I arrived at counseling, and I always wanted to give back to women.
Oh, wow.
And I always wanted to help support and empower women and help women heal through difficult times in their lives. So that's how I got here.
Okay, so what is the majority of like patients that you work with? Do you work with people of color? You work with teenagers?
Yeah, so right now I'm working with adolescents to adults, mostly women.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say like I specialize with women, but right now I do substance abuse.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I also work with women on parenting, on grief, on work-life balance, on depression, anxiety, and all of that stuff, just helping people get unstuck.
Wow, that's so interesting that you mentioned being unstuck, because when I was in college, similar to you, I went through a really hard breakup, and I talked about this on in another episode, but I remember not being able to like get out of bed, like the normal things that I didn't want to get out of bed.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to be around people, and I almost fell out of nursing school because I could not sit in the classroom and just focus. Like my brain was just all over the place, and I could not be alone without crying.
Yeah.
I used to have to leave class. I'll never forget, there was a bathroom all the way downstairs by the library. I would leave out of class, go to that bathroom so I could cry in peace and alone. And I thought in the beginning, I was like, oh, I got a reason to be sad. Like, I deserve to cry like this. But my life was falling apart.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I actually finished nursing school, I pulled myself together enough to finish nursing school, graduate, get my license, start working. All of these good things were happening to me. I ended up buying a brand new house that I was building from the ground up. I bought a new car after that. I moved. I was on my own. And all of these material things, I was still not happy.
Yeah.
I was crying myself to sleep every single night.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I like this? And I was very reluctant to go get therapy. Very reluctant. So this is my next question for you. What are some stigmas with therapy?
Oh yeah.
That, especially in our community,
absolutely.
That you feel like you face?
Yeah. Well, counseling, therapy, going to get help, all of that is frowned upon, unfortunately, in the African American community. The way our community really handles things is keeping it inside. Don't tell anybody else what's going on in our house. What goes on here stays here. And during those moments, you don't really think about like, how's this going to affect me later on in life, right? And it becomes an unhealthy pattern of doing things, and that means I suppress instead of express. And not to air out your dirty laundry to anyone, but being able to express my thoughts and feelings in that moment in time should be acceptable and should be done, especially with a trusted individual. And therapy offers that opportunity. It offers that safe space. It's confidential. The information is not getting leaked out anywhere else, but you can say what you've been thinking for so long. And somebody is there to partner with you, to grab your hand, to go on this self-discovery journey with you, give you tips, empower you, encourage you, nurture you, because it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. These are emotions that everyone experience, right? But it feels so much better to be able to do this with someone else. So therapy provides connection, it provides tools, and it provides healing. And I think more people need to tap into it because we need to prioritize our mental health.
Yes, I totally 100% agree with you. At that time when I first went to therapy, I was very reluctant. I told myself like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna find somebody that look like me because I want her to understand, if I'm telling her about my childhood, I want her to understand why I feel the way I feel. Like you said, I was taught that whatever goes on in this house stays in this house. So that's what I learned as a kid. I learned, don't be telling everybody our business. Don't be telling everybody your business. So I was suppressing these feelings, and I was in this dark hole, and there was no light. No matter how much money I made, no matter how much material stuff I got, I was still miserable. And so I remember I found a therapist. She looked like me. I went, and I was still terrified. The first couple of sessions, I didn't really say much. And then there was a time when she was like, girl, this ain't gonna work. Yes. You gotta talk in order for this to work. Like, what's going on? And at the time, I was like 23. I was a new nurse. And something had happened at the hospital that I worked at. There was a nurse that came in, said she was suicidal and was, attempting to get help. And there was a rumor going around the hospital that the hospital was trying to take her nursing license away. So these are nurses that have been nurses 30, 40 years.
Wow.
And I'm just a baby nurse. I've been a nurse 6 months at this point. And they're like, yeah, you can't even get help as a nurse. They gonna take your license away.
Terrifying to hear.
And I'm like, well, I know I'm sad, but I got these bills to pay, So I definitely agree with that. The stigma around therapy, because I experienced that in my own life, but she was able to get through to me. She's like, you're smart and HIPAA. I was like, oh girl, you right.
You good. What you do?
Yeah, you good. But
I'm glad you said that too, because it is going to take maybe 2 or 3 or more sessions for someone to feel completely vulnerable and honest with someone that they just met.
Yes.
And so that's why providing that safe space is so important. One of the most important things in therapy from a therapist is to build an alliance with your client. Because how am I supposed to help you if I haven't even created an opportunity for connection and partnership, right? But I want you to tell me everything, right?
Yeah.
No. So having that partnership and creating that alliance is very helpful. It's number one, really, when it comes to the therapist and client relationship.
And what do you think we could do to help normalize getting help for your mental health in our community or just in general?
I would say speak your testimony. Share your story with other people, because sometimes we just need a conversation to hear other people's experience and be like, oh, I deal with that too. Oh, wow, that helps you in that way. Maybe I should go and, have next steps. I love these websites that are coming out, like Therapy for Black Girls and stuff like that, that's just advocating for Black people and mental health, because that also opens the door for awareness and promoting mental health. So I would say word of mouth is going to be the key thing for normalizing mental health in the Black community, because we like to talk. So get up there and talk about your mental health.
Yes, and that's exactly why I wanted to do this podcast, and I share, my story and my struggles, because the first time I went to therapy, I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell my family members, my mom, nobody. Nobody knew that I was in therapy, because I was like, these people gonna think I'm crazy.
They're gonna judge me. Yes.
But I know I needed help. And I knew that I was the more I went, I was starting to get better. But I still was like, don't nobody need to know my business. Just between me and my therapist, And I felt like it was so important that she was Black for me, because she helped me through a lot of stuff. She helped me through that breakup, but she also helped me when the man came back. And I know there was some times where she wanted to kick me out of her office. Because I know she was like, she wanted to be like, girl, what is you doing? But, she was a professional therapist, so she was trying to help me make my own decisions and not, which I felt like was so important, because, when you're venting to your friends, it's a difference when you're venting to your therapist.
Yeah.
Because your friends are not giving you the coping mechanisms that you need to move forward. Yeah. And I feel like that is so important, because the advice I got from my friends.
Was it a little different?
It was a lot different.
Yeah, it was a lot different. I'm a huge advocate on individuals having tools in their toolbox. I don't want you to just come and let all this stuff out, all the intense emotions and your experience and not go home with something. It'll be like, what's the point of us meeting?
Yes.
You know, you need to utilize your tools. What works best for you in these moments? How do you manage with stressors? How do you manage life? Like, what does this look like for you? And tools really help you with that, whether it's deep breathing, meditation, yoga. Tools can look like a lot of different things, techniques, just learning more about your mental health status, you know, just the education behind it can be a tool to help you begin to feel better. And so tools really helps you move forward to have emotional well-being and mental well-being.
Oh, wow. I love that. That is so important. I remember I'm a avoider, so my therapist had this sheet with all these faces on it, and she would be like, what are your feelings? And I'm like,
what?
Yeah. Like, it was this whole sheet of like different faces, and I'm like, what? These are emotions? She's like, yes. And you need to figure out which emotion you have and write it down. You know, she had me every day write which therapy. So that was a great tool.
I use that too. And if you guys are interested, you can look up the feelings wheel. It's on Google. And ask yourself, check in with yourself in the morning, check in with yourself in the evening. How am I feeling right now? Why do I feel the way that I feel right now? What thoughts are going on repeat in my mind that is fueling this feeling? What worked today? What didn't work today? Just a brief, not anything an hour long or anything like that, but 5 to 10 minutes. You deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve to show up for yourself and to be the best version of yourself. So doing a brief check-in in the morning and a brief check-in at night by just asking yourself, how are you doing? You're labeling the emotion, identifying why you feel that way, and hopefully identifying the thought that's presented by this feeling.
I love that. So what do you say for people who say, you know, all therapists want to do is push medication or drugs on you? Now, mind you, I never took medication. It was suggested by my therapist, but I felt like it wasn't a choice that I wanted to make for myself. So what do you feel in that aspect?
I feel like you are going to be the best expert for yourself. Right? So some people do medication, some do not. It just depends on how severe their symptoms are, whether they need medication or not. I typically like to go the more holistic way first. But if I'm seeing that the symptoms are worsening and now we have suicidal ideation going on, okay, maybe we need to go a further step. And I thankfully have a team of people that I work with that help in that medical area and can provide expertise on, okay, what will work for this client? What prescriptions will help them alleviate and give them back to a baseline, you know, their normal, so that you can begin to use the tools, right? So I think it just depends on your situation, the severity of the situation, and you knowing you. And being the expert about yourself. So,
and that's a great thing. Like I said, I never took medication. It was suggested, but I wanted to go the more holistic route, and I wanted to really feel like I had control over myself. I do have some friends who have taken medication to help them perhaps get over a hump, and then their therapists or psychiatrists wean them off, and now they don't have to take any medication, just help them get through that very tough time. So I agree with that. I think you should be able to, you know, have a say-so and a plan. I really love that my therapist worked with me. And so when I decided not to take the medication, she was like, okay, well, now we're going to meet once a week, you know, to try to help me through that difficult time. And I appreciated that for her. So since you say you work with teenage girls, how important do you feel like self-esteem is for them? What in women in general?
Yeah, everything. Self-esteem, self-worth is everything. And when we lack self-awareness, it's very hard to identify what do I like, what don't I like, what are my values, what are my interests, what are my boundaries, what are my non-negotiables. Like all of that is tied together in what we think about ourselves. Am I enough? Am I loved? Am I worthy enough? Because our actions will begin to tell us a little bit of what we may be thinking about ourselves.
Ooh, that's deep.
And so you want to make sure that you're doing those check-ins. You become self-aware so that you know where you are. Maybe I need to increase my self-esteem, or I want to work on my self-confidence. What does that look like for me? So I can hold boundaries, because we teach people how to love and how to treat us.
Yes.
So if you're not even doing that for yourself, what example are you showing others?
Yes, that is so interesting that you said it, because I just now learned boundaries as an adult.
Yeah.
And I'm in my 30s. I didn't learn that growing up, you know, in a Black family. When you a kid, it's like, this my house, these my rules. I can walk in your room when I want to. I never knew boundaries. I didn't know how to set those. And then I feel like when we get older, it's like our relationship with our parents change. And so it's like, how do I navigate that as well?
Right.
So that is so important. I feel like young girls, they need to understand that they are so vulnerable out here when their self-esteem is low. And not just to boys, grown men, other women. A lot of things can happen. I'm so protective over my niece. Yeah. And I'm so like, checking in with her, and because I know I ain't gonna say wild. I was a little wild teenager.
Okay.
I was a little wild teenager. I was a little boy crazy. But now that I'm an adult and I've been in therapy, I understand why I was like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And therapy helps give you those answers. Why do I seek for attention and validation? Why do I seek for love? Is that something I was missing as a child? And how do I nurture that within myself now so I can teach other people how to do that?
Yeah.
Right?
So important. So what tips would you give for someone who has a friend or a family member who is having trouble coping with life and is trying to like seek help? Like, how can you support them in their everyday life?
First, I would make sure that you are available and that you're accessible, and then meet that person where they are. A lot of times we look at or we hear a situation and we're like, you should be doing this and you should be doing that and you should be, and that's easier said than done, right? And so you want to meet people where they are, because your solution might not be their solution. And like I stated earlier, you are your best expert. You're the author. You're the narrative of your story. And so I would say to provide them the opportunity to have that space to communicate with you, be a trusted individual for them, support them. If you cannot handle it, do not offer yourself.
Ooh, that's a good tip.
If you got a lot of stuff on your plate, not to say that you're a bad friend, it has nothing to do with it. But if it's just too much for you right now and you already got a lot on your plate, refer them. Give a resource.
Yes.
Therapy for Black girls.
Yes.
Hand off a resource to them.
Yes.
And if you are able to take it on, be a listening ear.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
People just want a safe space. People want to be heard. People want to be seen. Just give them that opportunity. We don't always need an advice or a solution. Sometimes I just want you to hear me.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a good tip. And I feel like sometimes as a friend, it could be overwhelming when you have somebody that's going through it. I know there was a couple of times where I had to check myself and my friend, like telling me something. I'm just like, girl, just get up. You weak in the knees. Especially like, relationships or just life in general. You're like, girl, you just weak in the knees. You just need to block that man number. It's just like, girl, it's not that easy. And I think when we're not the ones going through it, it's easier for us to say, girl, just do this, you know? And yeah, like you said, it ain't that easy.
Yeah.
So for you as a therapist, like what are some things that you do to like decompress your day so you're not taking that stuff home with you?
Self-care is very important. I know that's such a trendy word right now.
Yes.
And I am all for getting your hair done, get your nails done, looking good, honey. I'm all for that. But for me, self-care is taking care of me emotionally, taking care of me mentally. So I do a lot of journaling.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because sometimes I have so much going on up here and so many things to do throughout the day where I'm not letting it out. It's just there and it's just going circulating. And I'm just like, there's more stuff on top of more stuff on top of more stuff. So sometimes for me, it's easier to just put it on paper. And when I'm done with the paper, I'm done with the paper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if I need to process some things, or if it triggered a extreme emotion for me, I am very curious with myself. So I ask myself, why?
Yeah.
Why are you feeling like that? Why do you think that is? Why? I always start with why. Because you could keep going on and on from that. And that's kind of what I do with myself. And I do my check-ins. In the morning, I set my intentions for the day.
Oh, I love that. So do you recommend like positive affirmations?
Yes, I love positive affirmations. And I know some people are like, that is not for me. That is so cheesy. And it does feel weird at first, right? Like talking to yourself.
Yeah.
But honey, you better talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Your little girl will, the little girl inside of you will thank you later. It's so important for you to empower yourself.
Yeah.
Because everybody can't do that for you. And it's not their responsibility, to be honest. It's yours. Yeah. So hold that ownership for yourself and say, I'm going to honor myself by speaking positively. Because so often in our minds, we hear the inner critic. Girl, why are you doing? Why are we even here? You know you can't do that. You hear all these things. You might not be saying it out loud, but you hear it up here. And so you want to be able to challenge that, right? Like, no, I am smart enough.
Yeah.
I deserve a seat at the table. I deserve to be in the room.
Yes.
So that thought is like, oh, okay. Hang it up.
Yeah.
Shut it down. You gotta shut it down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I was in therapy for a minute when I was young, and then I got out, and then probably about 2 years ago, maybe 2020, 2021-ish, I got back into therapy, and then that therapist was a different therapist, and she had me doing positive affirmations and things like that. And at first I'm like, girl, looking in my mirror and saying these sayings, I just feel kind of crazy. She's like, okay, well, just keep doing it. Like, just encouraging me to keep doing it. Yeah. And it really helped because there was a lot of negative self-talk.
Yes.
And that really helped combat that. So I'm telling y'all, I know y'all see them positive affirmation on TikTok, all over social media. So where do you feel like social media plays a part in the mental health, especially of young girls?
I feel like there's a lot of different platforms out there for anyone really seeking out some self-care techniques and tips to take care of your mental health, which is great. With that, I feel like take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't, right? Like you don't have to. And don't get on Google to try to diagnose yourself, okay? Please. You'll leave with 10 things on there. So please stay off of Google.
Yeah.
But take what inspires you. Take what empowers you. But I would really recommend seeking out a professional to be able to support you during any obstacles or just life in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I do feel like social media gets a bad rap. When it comes to like mental health of others, but I feel like there's a lot of positive things out there that people kind of glaze over. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of pages that promote positive affirmations, and there's even apps out there. I downloaded this app called Selfish Babe.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yes, and it is an app that will give you, every morning, will give you a positive affirmation for you to say out loud and just to empower yourself and start your day off right. So things like that, I think we should focus on those things more. A lot of times people want to focus on, you know, like the whole IG model, giving girls these, you know, negative feelings about their bodies. And it's like, girl, them people is not real.
No, let's be realistic, right? I think social media also provides community. Your community for sure. As far as taking advice, I would say leave that to the professionals, but it is inspiring. Go ahead, get your inspiration, get your fuel that you need.
Yes.
So yeah.
For sure. Do you ever work with families, or are you more so just working with individuals?
So I work with individuals, but I do family sessions.
Oh, okay.
But I do that. My client is my focus point.
Okay.
And I bring the family in. So I don't do family therapy, but I do offer family sessions.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So typically I do individual sessions, but if you would like a family session here and there to just kind of like talk about some things, I'm up for that too. But they definitely, I'm sure you can find family therapy sessions.
The first therapist I went to, I remember she did like couple sessions that prompted me to ask that question. But yeah, this conversation has been so enlightening. Thank you so much again for coming on, because I feel like this is a conversation that we need to have more often. When it pertains to like mental health. And I definitely want to make sure that I'm inspiring people to take care of themselves on the inside first.
That's right.
Because I feel like a lot of people watch me on YouTube and they see my outside transformation, but the inside,
baby.
Without that inside transformation, none of this would have ever happened. So do you have a message for if anybody's out there struggling and they're looking for help? Like, what can you give, some words of wisdom to those people?
Take one day at a time. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself compassion. So many times we are so quick to give other people our kindness and love, and we tend to neglect ourselves. And so I would just encourage you to give yourself that same kindness, give yourself that same compassion, give yourself some grace, let yourself off the hook. It's okay to do nothing for a day. Like, give yourself some grace. You are doing a good job, doing the best that you can in the moment. So I would just encourage everyone to honor themselves, take it one day at a time, give yourself some grace and love on you where you are in life.
Oh, I love that. That's great, solid advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on Shantae's Way. This has been so much fun. We'll definitely have to have you come back and have questions from like the viewers that you can answer. So that'll be fun, y'all. So if you have a question for Miss Vanay, then leave it down below in the comment section and we'll bring her back and she'll answer your questions, and that'll be so fun. So thank you guys so much for watching or listening to this today. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, and we will be back. So until next time, bye.